Today on the Ownership Advantage, we are diving into a topic every business owner and family should care about: protecting what matters most. Donna Fore is a licensed insurance agent with Mutual of Omaha, and she spent years helping families, professionals, and business owners prepare for life's biggest curveballs. From legacy planning to long-term care and everything in between, Donna brings a practical, people-first approach to financial protection. Let's get into it. Donna, welcome. I am so excited to be sitting down talking about a number of different things here, especially when it relates to insurance and small business and things like that. But before we dive into a few questions, for those in the audience that have not met you before, give us a little bit of background. Tell us a little bit about what you do and maybe just a sneak peek into the story of what led you to the role that you're in today.
Well, my full name is Donna Fore. I'm originally from the Austin, Texas area. I went to high school here and I went to college in Texas, but I joined the military upon graduation from college. I was commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Air Force High, and that then sent me on my journey of my career, and I ended up spending 30 years in the Air Force. Didn't expect it to last that long, but it just kind of happened. Went all over the world, obviously, and lived in multiple different states. I was in 2 wars, and also kind of an unusual aspect of my life is I am a survivor of 9/11. I was in the Pentagon when it was attacked. So don't be surprised if I get a little emotional talking about it, but I did lose 9 people in the building that I had been working with. They weren't in the Air Force. They were in other branches of the service or organizations that were at the site where the building was attacked. So you kind of carry that thing around with you because it's a big trauma, right? So.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of the fact that I served in the Air Force and really proud to be a veteran. Anyone who served in the military has done something really important, which is just to sign up, right? Because it's hard to join the military and serve in the military. So to all the veterans out there that may be listening, I respect and honor your service, and I'm very thankful. I do thank them for their service, and I'm very proud to be one of them. So, that's a little bit about me. Now, how I ended up getting insurance is a kind of a roundabout thing. I was retiring, and so I decided to work for a big defense company, which a lot of people do that have been in the military because it's an easy kind of transition. You take your uniform on and you put on a suit. But after a few years, I just didn't feel like I was doing what I should be doing. I felt like there was more for me to do. And a company called New York Life, it's another big insurance company, found me on LinkedIn. Don't ever ignore your LinkedIn profile, by the way, because people do look at those things and may decide to hire you from them. And I did get hired with New York Life and spent many years there. Eventually, my path led me to Mutual of Omaha. It had just some different kinds of opportunities for my clients that I thought would be valuable, so that's why I transitioned to them. Definitely valued my time at New York Life because they taught me a lot about the insurance industry. Now, did I know a lot about insurance when I first started out? Not really, but I have learned a ton. I've been doing insurance now for almost 10 years, so I have definitely learned a great deal in that time frame. And what I learned that relates to small businesses is I commonly hear from small business owners is that I don't need it right now, or I think it's very expensive, it's confusing, I'm not really sure what I even need. And what I can tell you is this: first of all, it's not that expensive. It's less expensive than you would think. Everyone needs some insurance to cover their business and their families and, other things like that. And it's like this: you don't realize you need it until you're there, right? You're at that situation where, oh gosh, Donna told me I'd need this insurance someday, and now the day's here and I don't have the insurance I need. So what I would encourage people to do, whether you talk to me or another insurance professional, talk to someone about your business and your life and your family and figure out what you do need, because you may have the right product but not enough of it, or you may have a lot of coverage but with the wrong kind of product. So it's always best to sit down with someone who knows what they're doing and can give you advice. And even though I'm with a big company like Mutual of Omaha, they allow me to work with other companies. So if a business owner is interested in something that they need, I can go shopping for them. I don't have to plague them into just one particular offering through Mutual of Omaha. I can go out and find the best, opportunity for them and say, hey, I found something really good and it's really well priced. Let's talk about it. So I think that distinguishes me from a lot of other agents because I'm not pigeonholed into one particular company. I can kind of be a free agent. So
I like that. Well, I really appreciate when we start thinking about insurance and different things like that, the cost of not having it is significantly higher. It's just a cost that you haven't incurred yet.
Yes.
And I'm excited to dig into some of that and think about some practical things for the business owners. But I want to go back to kind of your history, and I want to
Sure.
get into a little bit of that, the origin story that you shared. Thank you for your service. 30 years in the Air Force is an
Yeah,
incredible
it was
career.
something. And when I joined, there weren't a lot of women in the military, so we would be in our uniform and doing our job somewhere on the base, and they'd look at us like, "Wow, we have women in the military." I said, yeah, we're here now, so we're proud to be there right with you guys. Yeah, but it was a
Yeah.
little bit odd to be in the military back at that time.
So what was the catalyst that got you to go in and make that choice and choose to serve your country? Why the Air Force as opposed to some of the other branches out there? I want to dig into that a little bit. What really led to making that decision?
I credit my father. He was in the military and he was in the Air Force. Well, he started in the Army and he was a World War II vet. So he transitioned between the Army Air Corps, and then he eventually joined the Air Force when they stood up in 47. So he told me all these great stories and places he'd been, and didn't tell me the bad stuff, only the good stuff. He didn't want to really get into his wartime experience, but I thought, that sounds kind of exciting. And he had 6 children. I'm the only one that ever joined the service, which is kind of unusual because my mother said, I never expected one of my daughters would join the military. But, again, it's one of those things where it wasn't a common career field for women. But I do credit my dad. He was the one that, and I really am glad he did this. So I wanted to join the Air Force when I was in high school. I said, no, I don't want to wait for graduate and go to college. I want to do it right now. He said, well, you could do that. He said, yeah, if you want to do it, I'll help you do that. But he said, if you go to college and you make good grades, even if you never join the Air Force, you do have that college degree to fall back on for whatever you decide to do. But if you get your degree and then you do join the Air Force, you'll be an officer. And he said, I was not an officer, and I kind of wish because he had started college at some point, but he didn't finish, right? Because he joined the service when he was pretty young. He said, so don't do like I did. Go ahead and try college and see if you like it. And if you don't like it, don't finish. But I did like it. So he was very, very good in giving me advice about life and about getting into the military.
That's amazing. And clearly the military career, lots of, I'm sure, positives and exciting and very cool things that I'm sure you were a part of.
Yes.
Clearly some things on the opposite end of the spectrum as well. But I'm curious, with such a long tenure in the Air Force and now being in different careers here outside, what are some things that you learned through that 30-year career that has really transcended beyond just the military career, that has been skills and things that you've kind of
Right.
taken with you from that career?
Military teaches you how to do things you don't think you can do, right? They say, well, you've got to do all these push-ups and you've got to do this really tough job. And you say, I can't do that. And they, no, yeah, you can. We're going to teach you how to do it, and you're going to do it. And you go, okay. And then you do it, and you go, wow, I did that thing. I didn't think I could ever do. So they teach you how to try a big challenge, and then, you go over it, and you go, yes, I can do big things. I can do things that are scary sometimes. And the reason you can do it is because the training is amazing in the military. The teamwork. What I missed about leaving the military when I finally retired was the sense of your comrades, right? They've got your back. They'll bend over backwards to help you. Sometimes in the civilian world, it can be like that, but sometimes not. You always have a team. And then the third thing is you just work with incredible people, right? People that will work very long hours, do amazing things that you don't think are possible to get this great goal done. And it also teaches you resiliency because you lose comrades along the way. You have missions that don't go so well and outcomes that are less than what you expected they would be. So they teach you resiliency. It's like, okay, that didn't work out. We're going to try it again in a different way and with a different strategy and see if we can do better the next time. That's why there's so much training. You're always rehearsing for that day when you're going to be overseas in some difficult spot, right, in a war zone. And you have to be able to think on your feet and be resilient. I think resiliency is probably the biggest thing I learned. Don't get down in the dumps because something didn't work out. Just pick yourself up, find a new way to get going again, and get the job done. And I think that's essential to a business owner because business owners are going to have great days where everybody wants what they're selling and they're on the top of the world, and then they've got like weeks and weeks of, nobody's even taking my phone calls and nobody wants to talk to me, and it's been just a terrible quarter because it happens with every business owner. I've never met a business owner that said, oh yeah, from day one, everything was just, sunshine and everything went all my way. It does not like that, right? It's like anything else with life, it's got ups and downs. But if you can figure out how to get yourself out of that situation and move on, whether or not it goes away quickly or you still have to struggle a bit, life is a struggle, right? And if you know how to pick yourself up off the ground and get back to what you should be doing, then you can succeed. Whether or not you're exactly on target, at least you picked yourself up and went back into the game, right? Because a lot of people give up too early with their business and they don't achieve what they wanted to because they thought it was too hard. Maybe being in the military taught me that hard things are good for you. You'll learn more from the hard things than the easy things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I've had a number of mentors and coaches and things like that I've had the pleasure to be with that have reminded just how you have to go through uncomfortable things. You have to be willing to do the difficult stuff because it's really the only way that we grow. Which I'd love to kind of get your take on failure. How do you think about failure? What does failure mean to you, or how do you think about that in just day-to-day
right
types of things?
Well, being a solo business owner, I don't have staff. Even though I work for a big company, I'm all by myself, right? So I have to look in the mirror every day and say, if I don't have a good day today, it's really your fault. You can't blame it on, the person, over here didn't do their job. It's all on me. And for a lot of business owners, it's like that. So the most important thing is to take accountability, right? And don't think that one failure today is fatal to you. It's not. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have quarters that just are abysmal, right? Like I just moved to Texas last year. No one knows me out here in Texas, right? I had a pretty good business going in Virginia and North Carolina and places like that, but now I'm kind of starting over again. So it's a little weird to have to do that, but I'm doing it. I'm putting myself out there, going to events and talking to people and putting myself in places where people will get to know me more, right? I even do vendor shows sometimes. Even though they're exhausting, I can be out in front of lots of people at one time versus just ones and twosies every week. So I would say that that's part of how I rise to challenges, right? I kind of enjoy them. If someone says, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or that's too hard, I go, I'm going to do it anyway. It's like when I was moving out here at my age, my family was like, I don't know if you should be moving at your age, and you're starting over, and blah, blah, blah. By the way, I should tell you why I moved out here. So I was in a really bad car wreck last year. I was rear-ended by a tractor trailer. It was, in fact, the anniversary is coming up on April the 19th. So when that happened, I had to call two of my siblings and say, you have to fly out here to Virginia because I need a little help for a little while. I'm injured. So they did. And I thought, I can't keep asking my brothers and sisters to jump on planes and fly to Virginia because something has happened to me, right? So I said, the family's there. Why am I still on the East Coast? So that's why I moved to Texas, to be closer to family. Because remember, I've been all over the world. I've been away from family for a long, long time. And I said, it's time to get back with the family. I've been absent for a long, long time. So, was it challenging? Was it scary to move? Yeah, I had to sell my house. I had to sell my property. I had to figure out what I was going to do in Texas in terms of my business. Even figuring out where to live in Texas is challenging. There's so many big communities out here. It's like, where do I pick a place to live? So, but again, I think you have to have the mindset that I'm going to take on challenges, knowing that sometimes I'm not going to be 100%. I'm not going to be perfect at everything I try, but at least I'm trying, right? And if I fail, I'll say, okay, maybe that wasn't the right thing for me to do, or maybe I just need to do it a different way. But I think that that's what makes good business owners good at what they do. They're not afraid to take on challenges. They're not afraid of failure. They pick themselves up and they then start off in a new direction or with a different attitude. Because attitude in life is everything. I mean, if you're constantly in fear or anxiety or something like that, you're not going to be good for your business or for your clients. I mean, there's days I have to call my clients up and deliver some bad news. Like maybe they took out a policy and the price went up a little bit because their policy got issued and the prices changed while we were going through the process of getting their policy. Most of the time they take it well, and the other flip side of what I do is because I do life insurance, I have people that pass away and I have to do their death claims. In fact, I had to do my own father's death claim, which is a little bit tough. You know, it's always tough when a client passes away, but when it's your own dad and you're responsible for taking care of the claim, it's a little weird, you know. But I was glad that I was in this business because I knew what to do. If one of my siblings had to do it, they'd have been confused. But I said, I know exactly what to do. I'll get this all sorted out, and I'll take that responsibility off of you guys. You can deal with all the other stuff that needs to get done about Dad's affairs. So, hard to do? Yeah, it still affects me, as you can tell, because I miss him so much. But I was proud of the fact that I knew what to do. I was in the business, and he had a policy with my company, and I could make that easy on everybody else. So that's one of the examples of doing hard things is good for you to do.
Yeah. And I imagine that having that type of an unfortunate situation, the empathy that you can show when working with clients, when going through that same situation, knowing that they may be dealing with the exact same thing that you've gone through. That human interaction that you can bring is so much stronger than somebody who hasn't had to deal with that.
Absolutely.
So I imagine many of your clients can really feel that when they work with you.
Well, and I really listen to them, right? I mean, I have a lot of different things I can provide for people, and I want to customize it to what they need. And I want to customize it to their budget. I mean, if someone wants $1 million policy and they only need 250,000, I'll tell them, I'll be honest with them, say, you know, I did all of your analysis of what you have. Really, you only need 250,000. I mean, if you want $1 million, we'll pursue that. But my analysis says different. So I'm proud of the fact that I don't try and pigeonhole people into a certain kind of product or a range of coverage, right? I listen to what they're telling me, and then I analyze it, and then I come up with a plan for them. And I think that that's important, to listen and give them the right plan, not just something that I'm just going to say, well, we only have this range of things, and you should pick one of these four. No, that doesn't help them out. Like, here's an example of where it's important. So 10 days ago, one of my clients passed away in Virginia. He was elderly, so it was not an unexpected death, but it's a tragedy to his family because he was in their family. So I had to tell the widow, I said, you know, normally I would come to that funeral. He goes, because I want to be there for you and Bertram, who was her husband who passed away. But I can't be there, so I'm going to do everything I can to get your claim processed quickly, because he was one of my clients. So I did, and she's got her money to help cover everything, and his funeral was paid for. But those are the times I'm really glad I do what I do, because when I first met with them, they were on a very tight budget. And by then he was already a little older and he had a few health problems. And he said, I don't think you can get me a policy. I said, well, I like that challenge. I'm going to take that challenge on. So I did. I found him a policy. I worked within their budget. And so I'm glad I didn't just give up on them and just say, well, you know, this is going to be too hard. You've got some sickness and I don't know if I can do it. But I said, no, I'll take on the challenge. And I'm glad that I found the right policy, because now she was able to bury him with dignity and honor and be able to do right by him. And I think that that's important when someone passes away, is to be able to give them the kind of goodbye that you want, that final farewell with dignity. So
yeah, and just the impact that can have in a moment that's really hard and emotional for someone. Yes. I think that is such a cool thing to be able to be a part of in the most positive way. So when we think about businesses, so let's go to business owners for a second here. Why is it really important? We talked a little bit before on insurance being one of those things that there's the cost of not doing something that's harder to quantify when it hasn't happened yet. And then there's the cost of having protection. Why is that so important for small businesses to ensure that they are properly protected?
Well, first of all, they have to protect their business. Their business needs its own insurance, so to speak, right, to protect it. But then the owners or owner, depending on, if there's multiple people involved in the company, they need their own plans. And a lot of business owners don't know this, but you can have the business pay for the insurance policy. So say you have two owners and you're worried that if something happened to one of them, the business could flounder, right? So you take out policies on both, but the payout doesn't go to the family. It goes back to the business, because if owner A is still around but owner B has passed on, the money comes back to infuse the company with some money to replace owner B, and then the company continues. Now, I only do a strategy like that if they've already got some insurance for the family. I would never tell somebody, insure your business and don't provide for the family, right? So we always make sure the family's covered. But absolutely, owners should have policies on themselves and all their key employees. And if they have a lot of employees, this is another opportunity that business owners can look into, which is kind of cool. So say you have 50 employees. You don't have to have that many. You only need 5. But say you've got 50 and you don't have any benefits for them. An insurance company like Mutual of Omaha or others can tailor-made a set of benefits for the company. Now, the reason that that's important is those people get some insurance plans, which they need. But the best part is it's reduced cost because you now want to go to group plan. Group plans are cheaper than individual plans. But here's the nice part. So say you've got some employees and you don't want to lose them. If they know they have these great benefits at work, they're less likely to go to another company, right? So it helps with your recruiting because you can brag to people, hey, we've got these great benefits that were provided by the employer, or maybe it's split between the employer and the employees, but we have benefits. And if you leave, you're going to lose all these great benefits that the company's been providing. So for the business owner, insurance can be not just to protect themselves and their families, but it can help with recruiting people and keeping them in the business. Nobody wants to lose good people, so it can serve a multiple of purposes, actually.
I really like that. And I think for especially a lot of the business owners that may be listening or watching this later on, understanding really even just the cost of recruiting and hiring somebody. Like, let's say you lose a team member for whatever reason. The cost to replace that person, it takes time, energy, effort to bring a new person on. They could be a phenomenal person. They could be equal to what you lost, all that kind of stuff, but it still takes time, energy, and effort. There is a cost there. So being able to reduce the employee churn, I guess,
yes,
is really powerful, and this is a tool that can use it. Now, on the other side, protecting the business itself, protecting it from key person type insurance, things like that. One thing for many of our or for many of those in the audience to really think about is, let's say it's your business, it's you and a business partner,
right?
And you or your partner pass away, something else like that, right? But you haven't been paying market rate for that particular job function in the business. Well, that job function still needs to be done, but now we've got somebody who's not an owner that needs to come in, and you're going to have to pay market rate. If you don't have protections in place, if you don't have some insurance to fall back on, that can be detrimental to a business.
Yes.
So it's really important to kind of be thinking about what are these different ways that it actually comes in and can affect with the decisions that we're making within business today.
Here's another interesting thing for business owners to think about. Everybody's heard of term insurance. Term insurance is the most affordable insurance you can buy. Term means it goes away after a certain number of years. Mm-hmm. A lot of employers offer term insurance because it's very affordable. If you take out a permanent policy, right, and the individual wants to leave the company, guess what? They don't lose that insurance. It follows them. Typically, if I went to a company and was employed by them, the day I retire or separate, poof, I have no more life insurance. If you offer your employees the opportunity to take out permanent policies, whether you pay anything into it or it's all on them. Like, I had a group in Virginia where the owner said, I can't afford to buy all the policies for them, but I want you to come in and make a presentation. And then hopefully a significant number of the employees took out permanent policies because they said, normally I lose my insurance every single time I've left a job. One day I had insurance, the next day I had none. Now, here's what makes a difference to people. So when you're young, insurance is very, very affordable because you're in great health and it's very cheap. When you're older, not so much, right? So if you have a permanent policy, you started at company A and it's very affordable. You took it out at a very young rate and then you leave and go to company B. You've still got that insurance because it's your own private plan and you locked in that rate until you go to heaven. So it's kind of a neat opportunity to catch people when they're just starting out with their career, and they can take out a permanent policy and it can travel with them throughout their lives of employment. They don't have to worry about constantly buying new insurance policies. Good for the business and good for the employees because everybody wins. The owner didn't have to put any money into the policy, but he knows his employees are fully covered when they leave. They're not going to be stranded without any insurance. So I think that's another opportunity for business owners to think about. I don't have to pay into the policies, but I can have a company come in and offer the opportunity to my employees.
That's really fantastic. And I think it highlights the importance for business owners, for individuals to have conversations and connections with folks like yourself who really understand this world. So, as we kind of start bringing this conversation to a close, I wanted to ask for maybe one piece of advice. If you could give, knowing that the audience is primarily business owners, there's one thing that you could give them in terms of advice or just kind of some practical tip or something that you could leave them with today. What would you want to leave them with?
I think because I was at a networking event this morning and We talked a lot about resiliency, and we talked a lot about sticking to it. So a lot of times, you're doing your business and you're calling or you're emailing or you're putting stuff on social media and nobody's reacting, right? So you think, oh, I've got the wrong strategy. Sometimes it's just a matter of timing. I'll give you an example of why you should stick to it. So I met with a gal, this was in Virginia, and I went into a business and she was there, and she took my card. She says, oh, I want to talk to you right away. I really need some life insurance. She was kind of young at the time. So she took out a permanent policy. Now, it took me a year to work with her and get her plan done because she was going through some stuff personally. But anyway, so I pursued her for a year, got the policy. Now, here's why it makes sense to start things and stick to it. She got ill a few years after she got the policy, and it was a permanent policy. It grew some money inside of it. Permanent policies do that. Well, COVID hit, and her job was affected because she was in the hospitality industry, and that was affected a lot, hotels and restaurants. Do you know the money she grew inside that policy paid her rent and most of her bills for months until things got better and opening up things again, and people could get back to work in a different way, but they could still get back to work. So if I'd not pursued her, if I'd just said, gee, Susie's not calling me back, I guess she doesn't care. But I knew she cared because she had pursued me. She had asked for my card and said she needed life insurance. Now, how many times if someone has said that and then you give up on them, you go, well, I called them, last month, I called them this month, and they're still not talking to me. If you know you have something that person needs and wants, and you know you are the best person to offer it, don't give up on them. Keep pursuing them, whatever your industry is or whatever your offer is, because as long as you know you have the best product and you know they need it, keep going after them. If I'd have given up on my friend, she'd have not had insurance. She'd have not had money to cover her bills for several months while COVID was rolling out. And third, because she had the health issue, if I'd have tried to insure her, if she'd not taken out the policy, later, now she's had this health issue, she'd have never gotten insurance at all. So timing is everything, and being committed to helping people. You have to I look at my clients like their family. This is how I would treat my own family member, right? I want to give them the best product I can. I want to give them the best possible price, and I'm going to provide a high level of service. A lot of transactions you do daily in a business, like when you check out at the grocery store, you're only going to see that person once. You're probably never going to remember who they were, right? But with life insurance, it's kind of it's a long-term commitment that I'm making with these folks, because I'm going to be there when they take out the policy, and then when I have to, take care of their claim when something happens to them. So I take my job seriously, but I also want people to know that I'm not going to forget that you have a policy with me. I'm going to check on you every year, make sure everything's going okay, see if you need any help, and whatever things we talked about before that we didn't take care of. I'm going to remember those things, and we're going to have those conversations again, because I want them to know that Donna is their go-to person, that I'm there to be there throughout the whole journey.
I absolutely love that. And, being on, marketing and sales and understanding that stuff, I laugh at the number of people that just like, oh, well, I followed up twice and they're not responding, so I'm just going to let it go. Because they don't want to feel like they're, too whatever, but they're pushy, all the fun terminology you can use. And, the reality is it takes 7 to 12 touch points for somebody to finally, get back to you. And it's not necessarily that they're, they don't want to talk to you. It's, I just completely forgot or didn't see it or whatever. But the way that you framed it, committed to helping people.
Yes.
I think if you're a business owner listening, take this advice from Donna. Take the mindset of, it's not being pushy. It's not trying to sell them something. It's being committed to helping solve the problem that they said that they had. Like, that is such an amazing frame for that. And I appreciate you bringing that up. For those in the audience that do want to connect with you, that have heard a bit of your story today and say, you know what, Donna's the person I need to connect with, where can we advise them to go for more information? How can they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So I'm on quite a few social media platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, because that's where I got my job in the insurance industry. Also on a platform called Alignable, Alignable. A lot of people don't use Alignable, but it's a kind of a version of LinkedIn that's a little more local. And I happen to like it a lot. I'm also on Facebook, both under my personal name, Donna Fore, and then I have a business page called Donna Fore Mutual of Omaha. I'm on Instagram, so you can find me on all the major social media platforms. Is under change because of my move to Texas, so I don't want to give that out right now because it's a work in progress, but my phone number is 434 14, say it again, 434 665 14. It's a Virginia number, so a lot of people will be confused by that, but that's my primary cell phone. And I also maintain an office in Georgetown, Texas. So if anybody wants to meet me up there, I do have my own private office if they're concerned about meeting in a coffee shop or in a restaurant. I have a private place to meet, and we can talk about what they might need. Is there anything else you think that would be helpful for me to share with people? Or
I think that's absolutely amazing. You gave a number of different ways to connect. I'm going to advise everyone to pick your favorite platform that Donna's on here and send her a message. If nothing else, just send a message. Say, hey, saw you on the podcast. Great conversation. Loved your story. Make that connection here. It's one of my favorite things about this particular podcast is I get this opportunity to speak with other folks that are here in the local area. So if you're listening to this and you're in the local area, make that connection. These connections, you never know where they're going to go long term. So please encourage you, go reach out to Donna, say hi, and get kind of that relationship started. So with that, Donna, I just want to say thank you again. This has been an absolute pleasure. I know we could probably sit here for another hour and really dig in, but I appreciate you taking the time and sharing a lot of your history and your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, Tanner. It was great getting to meet you. Hope to meet you in person soon.
Of course.